Improvised Intelligence is sponsored by the amazing people over at Chopped Chili. If you've been a long time listener to the podcast, you know that this is my favorite brand of chili here in New Mexico. Pretty much put it on every meal that I can. They've got red chili, green chili. My personal favorite is this blend of the red and the green. I think this stuff is phenomenal. They also have frozen bags of green chili that you can order directly from their website at choppedchilico.com. You can also find them in stores around the state of New Mexico at Sprouts, Albertsons, Farmers Country Market, John Brooks, Keller's Farm Store, Lowe's Market. You can also find them in Albuquerque, Santa Fe, Hobbs, Gallup, Tucumcari, and for all my friends in Texas, they are in El Paso. Again, choppedchilico.com. Go get yourself some amazing chili. Now back to the podcast. Improvised Intelligence is sponsored by the amazing people over at Chopped Chili. If you've been a long time listener to the podcast, you know that this is my favorite brand of chili here in New Mexico. Pretty much put it on every meal that I can. They've got red chili, green chili. My personal favorite is this blend of the red and the green. I think this stuff is phenomenal. They also have frozen bags of green chili that you can order directly from their website at choppedchilico.com. You can also find them in There we go. All right. Good morning, everybody. It's a bit loud. Let's turn that down. All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to a brand new episode of Improvised Intelligence. I am your host, Noah Vargas. It's good to be back. It's been a little bit since I've done a live episode on a weekend, so I'm going to make sure we have audio here. Just give me a second. All right, cool. I think we're good. If we're having any audio issues, please let me know. Thank you for joining me. If you are joining me live, if you are watching me after the fact, thank you for listening. I will do my best to get this back onto Spotify as soon as possible. I know I'm kind of behind by a few episodes, so I appreciate you guys being patient. Hope you all have had a good first month. I know we're already in February of 2026 and shit has been absolutely insane. I think I did a live podcast at like the very beginning of the year, but I have not had the time to do this lately, which is, a good and a bad thing. I've just been super busy. Got a lot to get into today. You've seen the title, you know what this show is going to be about. This is going to be an interesting one. Before we get into the bulk of today's episode, I do just want to say a quick thank you to everyone. If you are listening to this podcast right now, if you're watching live and you are a new follower from Instagram, I want to say thank you. And I also want to say thank you to everyone who's been supporting. Whether you followed me on Instagram for the last 2.5 years, almost 3 years that I've been doing stand-up, or 5 years for the podcast, or even following me for the last fucking 2 seconds. I'm sure there's somebody who literally just followed me on Instagram. Yep, look at that. There's 5 more followers. The Instagram algorithm has decided to choose me. I'm not sure why, but I'm very thankful for it. Instagram, God, whatever had more influence over the other. Thank you very much for letting this happen. I gotta be honest. I posted a little bit on Instagram about the Epstein stuff during Christmas time. That started to explode, and then I was like, I'm just gonna ride this wave as long as I can, because quite frankly, I'm sick of being a comedian without a following. So thank you. That's my point here is thank you. I'm very gracious. I'm very thankful. So thank you. Very, very, very thankful. It's pretty cool to see. Okie dokie. And then a couple of housekeeping things to get into as well. If you are in the Albuquerque area on the 28th, myself and AJ De Leon, we are going to be doing another show over at Two Cranes. We're going to be starting that one, I think, at like 7:30. I don't know. I will be putting the ticket link to the show in the live chat, and then I'll put it in the comments as well. Tickets are starting to move. You do have to buy a ticket to this one. This isn't just a free admission. We sold out the last one. That was a lot of fun. Sold that out in 8 days. Typically, it's harder to sell I don't know why. Truly, I don't. But we found in some of my other friends that produce shows that it's harder to push a free show just because people are like, oh, it's free, it's probably gonna be shitty, whatever. The show went fucking phenomenal. Truthfully, nobody bombed. I was shocked. I'm not gonna name any names, but there was one person where I was like, ah, fuck, they're gonna bomb. But they did pretty all right. So it was good. I tried out some new, funny enough, tried out some new pedophile material that went pretty well. So it was it was a success. I'll consider that one a success. So that being said, I will put the ticket link in the live chat and in the comment section of this video. My laptop is just shitting out on me for no reason right now. Okay. So get your tickets and then DM me on Instagram if you're going to buy tickets, and I will give you a discount code, but I won't make that one public. Okay. All right. I think that's all my housekeeping stuff that I want to get into. All right. So let's get into the bulk of what we're going to talk about today. The Epstein files. As I'm sure you all know, there was a massive dump of files that came out a little over a week ago. And I mean, there's so many different ways to tackle this subject, and this is not going to be a comprehensive overview of the files. Anybody who's claiming, I haven't seen a whole lot of this, but anybody who's claiming they're going to give you an overview, or not an overview, but they're going to give you like everything about the files, yeah, they're lying to you. There's 3 million files that got put out, and not only that, they're much harder to access. And I'll get into that here in a second. But I'm sure a lot of you know, 2 Fridays ago, the DOJ decided to dump 3 million documents onto their website, and now a lot of us are left to parse them out. And then of that 3 million, it's unclear how many got taken down, but a not insignificant amount of documents were taken off the website. And then, and it's kind of just been a bunch of tomfoolery from there. We've got Trump saying about how we need to completely forget about the Epstein thing and move on, and about how he doesn't like how it's treating Bill Clinton and how Bill Gates is in a lot of trouble and yada, yada, yada. So we're going to get into all that. I think a good place to start with all of this is, how did we get here? I'm not going to go into a background about Jeffrey Epstein. I've done that in other videos, and quite frankly, there's other podcasts you can listen to that go into it a lot better detail than I can off the top of my head. I've mentioned it before, but Daryl Cooper had a great episode on Tucker, and Sagar and Jetty had a great episode on Flagrant with Andrew Schultz and his group of guys. So those are really great breakdowns on the backstory of Epstein and basically everything leading up to his death. Let's just put it that way. So how did we get here with this specific dump? Obviously, we have the Epstein Files Transparency Act, which was drafted up, written by Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna. That finally ended up getting passed, signed into a law. The DOJ drags their feet on releasing the files. They release the files, I think, like the first batch gets released on like the 19th or the 20th of December, maybe a little earlier than that. I don't know, around there. And if we all want to go back to that and remember, the big thing about that dump was that a lot of it was redacted. Now, unfortunately, that is the same case here with this new dump. Never thought I'd say this, but a positive thing about that dump was that at least you could download the files in bulk. It was in chunks, but there were like 4 data sets that you could download, right? And you could start going through them yourself and trying to figure it out that way without the need for an internet connection or servers. Or once you download them, they cannot be tampered with, right? That was the positive of that dump. Now you flash forward a little over a month or so, and before we get to that, so the DOJ drags their feet. And they're talking about how, we don't want to re-victimize the victims or re-traumatize victims, or we don't want to, put out wrong information, or whatever bullshit. I mean, Kash Patel is one of the most useless figures in government I have ever seen or read about, and that is not an exaggeration. Dan Bongino, same exact thing. They are both just such useless wastes of space. It's like, have you ever met somebody, like, let's say you're hanging out with a group of friends, or you go out in like a normal setting, or you go out with a group of friends like to a bar, or you're in some sort of social setting with your group of friends, and you're really getting into a conversation, and let's say you let somebody else join in that you just met, they seemed really cool, and then they just start adding to the conversation, or they start speaking during the conversation, and they manage to take away from the conversation by speaking. Have you ever met somebody like that? That's Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, and Pam Bondi. It's genuinely mind-boggling how fucking useless these people are. It's genuinely mind-boggling. I can't believe it, but yet every day they surprise me and they become more retarded. It's I don't get it. I really don't get it. But they manage to do it at an almost hourly basis. So in between that first data dump that we got and the newest one that we've got them saying all these bullshit lies about how they all haven't been coming out yet, and they're in that 30-day timeline, and they were knowingly whatever. And I will say this. So Ro Khanna went on Sean Ryan's podcast, and he was like, look, we are willing, he extended an olive branch, right? He goes, we are willing to be lenient on the timeline if it means that they're going to do their job right. But even at the time, this was like 2 or 3 weeks ago that 3 weeks ago, I think this podcast came out. I knew they were going to be doing their job right. Now the files do come out. They didn't do their fucking job right. Anyway, so they drag their feet. They make a bunch of excuses. 3 more documents come out. Now, truly, in totality, right? In totality, the amount of documents that are in possession of the DOJ is unknown. And quite frankly, I don't know if the DOJ knows how many documents they have. I doubt it. I really doubt that the last remaining brain cells in Pam Bondi's stupid head knows how many documents that she is in possession of. I mean, when you start wheeling out these fucking MAGA retard influencers with empty binders saying, look what we have. Like, can we just, I mean, I know this is a kind of becoming a dead horse, but just as this Epstein thing carries on, and we're going to get to this towards the end of the episode, the optics of it all. But as this Epstein thing carries on, the optics just continue to get worse and worse and worse. And they age horribly, these actions that they've done. And when you think back to the influencers running around with the influencers running around with the binders, it's like, you guys were really parading around with evidence that was proving that our government is compromised by Jewish satanic pedophiles on behalf of foreign governments that are blackmailing and running and influencing our government to do nefarious things. And you're parading around like you have the brand new pizza from Little Caesars or some shit. That's not a great analogy, but you get my pizza's a bad example. We'll get to that. Whoopsie. But you get what I'm saying? Like, you're parading around like they had the same energy as when I got my new Superman, my absolute Superman thing. If you saw that on my Instagram. Right? They were parading around like they have a collector's edition of something they think is really cool and not with the gravity of what they actually have. This shit gets me fired up. This is not going to be a calm episode as we go on. Okay. So they drag their feet. They have excuses. We get to this next dump. Now, and I will say this, some of the files did get corrupted, and I guess I should preface this, I've really been trying to listen to as many voices as I can about this, whether it's the mainstream media has been pretty much quiet about a lot of this, right? The mainstream media has been, not shockingly, but they've been quiet about a lot of this. There's been these fluff pieces from like Bret Baier interviewing Kash Patel, but that's a fucking nothing burger. I listened to it. You can listen to it if you want to laugh at it, but I mean, it's pretty fucking stupid. And then you've got I've listened to stuff from Fuentes. I've listened to stuff from Ian Carroll and Tucker Carlson. I've listened to stuff from Dean Withers and some other like left-leaning people I've just tried to find on YouTube or on Spotify, because Lord knows they're not on Rumble. Just trying to figure out like where, and obviously my Instagram is flooded with all of this shit, right? And I've been contributing to that. I understand that. But I've just been trying to figure out, like, where is everyone on all of this? I know where I am, but, like, am I crazy, right? And there's been some things, a lot of things I agree with, a lot of things I disagree with, and maybe I'll bring those up here. But, like, just trying to, like, stick a thermometer into the boiling water. Because this is boiling at this point. This is no longer simmering. This is no longer, we need to preheat the pot. This is a boiling water that we're in as a country, and I'm trying to figure out where the temperature is. And if the frog is the American people, that motherfucker is cooked. That's the conclusion I've come to. Spoiler alert. But I've been trying to figure out, like, where is everybody? And it's interesting. I'll say that much. It's very interesting. And with this recent dump of the files, unlike the previous one that I was speaking about, you are not able to download the files in bulk. You have to download each file individually. Now, like I said, there's 3 million that they just put out. They put out like however many tens of thousands. And that first one, there's been different numbers flying around that there's 5 million files, there's 6 million files, whatever. But we know now, just by public statements that are made by representatives of the government, let's make it a blanket statement, by blanket statements of the government, that there are still millions of files to go. And just with the 3 million file dump, any single person, it's going to take them years to get through it, I think. I think that much is, not years, but, months up to it's going to take you a while to get through all these things. And, I mean, there's just so many thoughts going into my head right now. I'm trying to parse this out in real time. So with the file dump that we got right now, not only can you not download them in bulk, there's not a cohesive way to access them. So let me see if my computer's working, and I'll put the ticket link to the show, and then I will also put the file link in the chat so that you guys can access it, and you guys can figure this out for yourself or make the attempt to. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but basically what you have to do is you have to fucking go into the link that I'll put in the chat here in a little bit. You have to go in there yourself, and you have to end up like doing keyword searches to find files, and that's how people are finding these files. So obviously they're searching the big stuff. They're searching pedophile. They're searching child pornography. They're searching for pizza. They're searching for all these code words that came out of the Pizzagate stuff. And since I'm in New Mexico, obviously everyone's searching for Albuquerque, APD, Zorro Ranch, Bill Richardson, and obviously people are searching for stuff like Donald Trump, Bill Gates, Stephen Hawking, Elon Musk, fucking Peter Attia came out, all those kind of things. So there's a lot. That's all I'm going to say. There's a lot to search through, and it's a challenge to be able to do it because you can't do it in a cohesive manner. And look, we obviously knew after that first Epstein dump that after they all got redacted, that the administration is not being nearly as transparent as they should be, let alone as transparent as they advertised that they were going to be. So they're lying. And quite frankly, it sucks. Like Ro Khanna brought this up on the podcast that he did with Sean Ryan, but this DOJ is not going to incriminate themselves, but the next administration fucking needs to. And look, I'm not going to vote Democrat probably ever, but I will say if there is one silver lining to a Democrat administration coming in after this one, they need to go after this administration for basically fucking all of this up. Okay. Yeah. Jesus, man. Okay, so now we have the Epstein dump that we're in. And there's some files that I'm going to bring up that I think are worth getting into, that I think are worth reading specifically and bringing up some interesting things. I do highly suggest that everyone listening to this podcast go and listen to Tucker and Ian Carroll's episode they put out yesterday. That was really good. I like that a lot. That was really good. They get into a lot of Pizzagate stuff, and they get into a lot of stuff about the housing market crash that Epstein was apparently involved in. And I just want to say, you know, the fact that you have to say that you're over 18 years of age to get into the Epstein library is fucking hilarious. So I'm going to put this file, or this link rather, into the chat. So this is where, what I just put into the chat, that is where you can start searching things. So what you want to do is you want to click on that link, and you're going to scroll down to where it says search, and you just start searching shit. Now, there is a link that says DOJ disclosures, and then it says search full library. And again, it just says search, and you go to DOJ disclosures, and so they did add up to 12 data sets. I take that back. I didn't see that before, but a lot of these things did get, this is not the totality of it. There's no way this is the totality of it. I could be wrong, but when I looked at it last night, this wasn't, it's not, that can't be it. So that's the first thing. And then also, just because I am also a stand-up comedian, I am going to put the ticket link to the show coming up here in Albuquerque at the end of the month, because we need motherfuckers to show up to that show. He's a very funny guy. He's from L.A., tours with Russell Peters, Comedy Store. Very nice guy, very funny guy. Okay. There's a ticket link. Let's see. DM me to get discount code heart. Okay. So I have these files in no specific order, but I am going to go through a couple of them. Oh, okay. We can start with this one. This is an interesting one to look into. Okay. So yesterday, I'm on my Instagram. I think backstory is important. So yesterday, I'm on my Instagram, and I see a good friend of mine. He's become a friend of mine recently. Good guy, Johnny. And he puts up a story. Yeah. What's up, AJ, if you're listening? Sorry, but I just saw your text. So he posts on his story, on his story and on his Instagram. He posts a reel about how he found this thing in the Epstein files that is going to blow the minds of New Mexicans, and it's going to make the news, and blah, 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 blah. And this is a topic that I'm going to get into here in a second about basically don't get tricked. And to quote Dave Smith, don't get out over your skis on some of this stuff, because even I got fooled on some things that I didn't post about it, but I had to like research it a little bit. But I texted him because I have his personal number, and I texted him. I was like, "Hey man, what's got you shivering in your boots? What's got you shaking, bud? Like, what do you got here? Tell me what you got." And he goes, "Buddy, Victoria Martins is in the Epstein files." And I was like, oh shit, that's not good. So for those of you who don't know, and I'm not saying that don't take my expression as like a happy thing. It's more of a like that meme of, I think it's John C. Reilly. I forget the Adult Swim show he was on, where it's just like, like that shit. Okay. So back in 2018, there's a very horrific murder. And I should say, before I get into this, Johnny did post a video about it this morning. Go onto his Instagram. This is no shade towards Johnny. I wish he would have gone into more detail, because I gave him some more details last night, because I like spent some time fucking researching. But I'm going to get into those details here. I think it's worth stating. Now, for those of you who don't know what the Victoria Martins case is, basically what it was is in 2018, there was a woman, and I should name these fucking people. Let me look it up for you really quick. Victoria Martins murder. Okay. So, Michelle Martins is the mom, and she and the boyfriend, Fabian Gonzalez, and I believe it's her cousin, Jessica Kelly and an unnamed John Doe, which we'll get to in a little bit. They basically brutalized this girl, raped her, killed her. Now, the mom was not made, there was no evidence showing that the mom abused the girl. It was just the boyfriend and the cousin. I'm not sold. I gotta be honest. I'm just not sold on this kind of thing. I think she was involved in the abuse. Physically speaking. But the girl was like brutalized, raped. When they found, now her body, from what I remember reading about it at the time, her body was found in pieces. And when the coroner's office did an autopsy, it was like some kind of like ritual sacrifice killing is what it looked like, apparently. When the coroner's office does an autopsy, they find that the girl had HPV. Now, mind you, this girl was 9 years old. This is some ugly shit we're going to get into. 9 years old. And we're just going to read a little bit of this from the Wikipedia. Her mother, Michelle Martins, did not have a criminal record, but later told investigators that she would seek men online to engage in sexual acts with her two children, including Victoria, while she allegedly watched for pleasure. Now, that is, on the Wikipedia, that is prostitution. That is soliciting your child for sex. That is prostitution. Now, Michelle Martins allegedly met Fabian Gonzalez on her internet dating service, Plenty of Fish, about a month prior to the killing. Jessica Kelly had been released from prison only 4 days before the murder. According to investigators, witnesses saw Jessica Kelly carrying Victoria Martins to the apartment around 10 p.m. on August 23rd, 2018. Later that night, neighbors reported screaming in the apartment. Shortly after, around 4:30 on the 24th, Michelle Martins and Fabian Gonzalez left the apartment and told neighbors that Kelly attacked them with an iron. After responding to a 911 call, police entered a second-story apartment and saw smoke coming from behind a closed bathroom door. Upon opening the door, officers discovered Martins' dismembered body partially wrapped in a burning blanket. She then was pronounced dead at the scene. An autopsy revealed she had been sexually assaulted, strangled to death, and then stabbed and dismembered. Her body was then set on fire. Martins had been given alcohol and methamphetamine before death, according to her mother, to calm her down so that Fabian and Jessica could have sex with her, though she later recanted the statement. However, later reports suggested that drugs were not found in her system. Investigators determined Martin died between certain hours. Okay. So that's what happened. Now, what I think is important too is, we'll start with the file. So there's a string of emails in the Epstein files that is going between the FBI Criminal Investigation Division, the FBI office in Albuquerque, and the FBI office in New York is CC'd on it. Now, which I think is interesting too. Now, so basically what happens is I text Johnny, he sends me this file, and I was like, no shit. So anyone from Albuquerque, obviously, if you've been here since 2018, you know about this case. This made all the headlines. Everyone knows about it. It's a very ugly thing. And Albuquerque, you know, for it being the metropolis of New Mexico, it's still a very small city in retrospect. And it has a small town mindset, I'd say. And so everyone's talking about this. And so if you're from here, you read this email. Now, this email has a ton of redactions, but you can read in between the lines and you can say, oh, this is Victoria Martin's case. So then what happens is I take this email and I put it into ChatGPT and I basically say, can you redact it? It says I can't, but while it is producing an image of what would end up being a unredacted version of this email, while it's generating the image, it stops saying generating image and it starts saying generating image on Victoria Martins' homicide. Now, what's interesting about that is Victoria Martins is not named in this file. The convicted persons are not named in this file. The only thing, if you're outside of New Mexico, if you don't know the details, if you're just reading this, if you're from fucking Wyoming and you're reading this file, the only thing that you can use to ascertain that this is the Victoria Martins killing is in the subject line. It has the FBI case file. Now, look, I may be ignorant to these things. I may be wrong about this. But as far as I know, civilians without FBI access are not able to look up FBI case files. I tried looking up this case file on Google, and the only thing that came up was some internet archive from the 90s of some UK article. Nothing to do with Victoria Martins. But ChatGPT apparently can look up FBI case files. That's interesting. Let's put it that way. It's interesting. So, moving on. I'm going to read this email as it is redacted. This is on June 29th of 2018. I'm sorry, the killing happened in 2016. I take that back. I'm sorry. This came out, all this stuff started happening in 18. This happened in 2016. I apologize. I take this back. Or 2017, and then, yeah, I take that back. Okay. So, this is what the file says. This is a case, so this is to the CID FBI office, Albuquerque FBI, multiple people in the Albuquerque FBI office. So, this is a case regarding a young girl, redacted, who was brutally assaulted, murdered, and dismembered in August of 2016. Initial information indicated that her mother, redacted, friend, redacted, and friend, redacted, all participated in the homicide. Further initial information included that redacted had been drugged with methamphetamine and might have been prostituted or a victim of child pornography by her mother. We'll get back to that. Redacted and redacted were all arrested by APD on a variety of charges. The FBI opened a child pornography investigation and has provided significant assistance to APD through the investigation. Redacted, redacted, and redacted have been in custody since the incident and has garnered significant press coverage. Just learned that redacted will plead guilty this afternoon to child abuse resulting in death, and redacted will be released from custody. Investigation determined that redacted facilitated her daughter's death by creating the situation. However, neither redacted nor redacted were present when the homicide and other crimes occurred. Forensics found a DNA sample that excluded redacted. APD will also announce that a John Doe has been indicted as a source of the DNA. Redacted will remain in custody. APD has obtained authority to bug her cell because they expect she will explode when she hears about redacted and will likely make incriminating statements. Redacted is expected to be sentenced 12 to 15 years. The FBI is not likely to feature prominently in press conference, which is scheduled for 2 p.m. today. Now, this is from the CID office. Did we notify CID? And this is from the CID office, FBI, to Albuquerque FBI and CC, the New York FBI. Redacted. Awesome. Thank you for your work by your team. Thank you for the update. So, what is interesting here, in my opinion, what is interesting is there is an article from the Las Cruces Sun Post or whatever that came out a month after this email was sent, and I'm trying to find it here. Okay. So, in the email, in the article, it says, District Attorney Raul Torres said there was no evidence that the girl's mother, Michelle Martins, was involved in Victoria's death or dismemberment or knew the identity of the fourth suspect police are now seeking. Meanwhile, Torres also said the results from Victoria's autopsy showed that she had human papillomavirus, or HPV, proved she was sexually assaulted at some point prior to her murder. The assault would have occurred weeks or even months prior to her death, he said. His office said, now this is very important. His office said, he said his office is not investigating the assault that caused her to contract HPV, but is focusing on the crimes that occurred the night of her death. And then at the end, he says, Torres reiterated that there is no evidence that Martins was trafficking her daughter for sex. Now, you can basically take this. This is just my opinion. This is what I told Johnny. I wish he would have put this in his video. This is just my opinion. But you can take this one of two ways. You can take it that the FBI was hedging their bets at one point that this little girl was being solicited and prostituted for sex and being trafficked. And then they did an investigation because they said they opened up the child pornography case. They did the investigation and they found no evidence. Okay, that's an option. That is an option. Or another option is they opened the investigation. They found that there was a fourth person, the John Doe, by DNA, basically didn't cover their tracks. And they found who that John Doe was, found out that he is a high level, or she, but probably he, is a high level pedophile. Because again, this is occurring while Jeffrey Epstein is still alive, active, and has his Zorro Ranch outside of Santa Fe. I'm not suicidal. I would never harm myself. I love my life. I really do love my life. Life is fucking cool. I love being alive. But they found out who this, I'm not saying it was Jeffrey Epstein himself. I actually very highly doubt it was Jeffrey Epstein himself. But they found who the John Doe either was or most likely was, and the FBI, the DA, both of them were pressured to not look into that person and just close the case. You already have 3 people, lock them up, get rid of it, even though Michelle Martins, is that her name? Yeah, Michelle Martins, even though she's already out of prison, at this point, she got out October of last year in 2025. They were pressured to not look into this John Doe. Because I've never been a district attorney. I've never been a beat cop. Okay? I've never done this kind of work professionally. But how are you going to find DNA evidence of someone you don't know at the scene? How are you going to find out that Victoria Martins had HPV? And at a bare minimum, how are you not going to investigate who gave her HPV? Because I have found nothing. Because I dug last night. I have found nothing that stated that Michelle, Fabian, or Jessica had HPV. Now, God, this is ugly to say, but if they were all assaulting this girl, they probably all got HPV. So at least you can look into that. I'm just saying. I don't know how HPV works, but like I would imagine that like if you come into contact with someone who has HPV, you're more than likely going to get it the first time you do it. But wouldn't it be strange? Let's just think a little bit. Let's think. Wouldn't it be strange if they STD tested all 3 of these people and they found that none of them had it? Or just one of them? Or you know what? Well, that would be one way to exonerate the mom. Right? Is that, well, the mom didn't have it, but these 2 did, or only the Fabian had it, or whatever? But how is your office as a district attorney, if you have any fucking self-respect, how are you not going to investigate that? How do you say that you have no intention of investigating that? That's fucking insane. Absolutely fucking insane. Absolutely insane. And look, with as far as this Epstein stuff goes, there is a history in this case. There is a history of district attorneys being compromised and being told to not look into Epstein. That's what happened with the dude, Alex Acosta, who initially gave Epstein the sweetheart deal in like 07 or 08, whenever that happened, because he was contacted by intelligence, probably the FBI, maybe even Mossad, both. But he was contacted by the intelligence community and was told, hey, this guy has connections to intelligence, lay off. Actually, I'm going to try to find the quote. Let me find it really quick. Yeah, here we go. Reported that Alexander Acosta, the U.S. attorney for the Southern District of Florida, who had handled Epstein's criminal case at the end of the W. Bush administration, had stated to interviewers of Donald Trump's first transition team, quote, I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone, and that Epstein was, quote, above his pay grade. So we have a history of this shit involving and revolving around the Epstein scandal, case, whatever you want to call it, trafficking ring. We have a history of this. So why would it be outside of the box to say that this happened again? I don't think it is. Personally, I don't think that's outside outside the realm of possibility here. That's all I'm saying. I think it's worth talking about. Shout out to all the people watching. Please leave a like, leave a comment in the chat what you think about the show. It really does help the engagement, because that's how you build a fucking audience these days, is you just build the damn engagement. Okay. Yeah, just in this time doing the podcast, I'm already at 660 or 6,600 fucking followers on Instagram. Holy mackerel. Okay, so that's it about the Victoria Martin case. I think it's very interesting. I think at a minimum, it's very, very interesting. Now, there is a next part of this that I really want to get into, and this is going to get into the deception of the Epstein scandal that I really think this is worth talking about. Boom, here it is. Okay. So I'm sure you all have seen these documents flying around. They are in the Epstein files. These documents are real, but I just want to talk about the context. Now, before I get into this, I want to make this extremely fucking clear. I don't care if 7 people are watching this or 7 million people watch this. I want to make this extremely clear because I understand track records are important. I plan on being bigger than I am today. Let's just put it that way. And track records are extremely important. And I've said some very stupid things on this podcast and whatever. I'm going to continue to do it. But where I can be right, I'm going to be right. I am not covering for powerful people in our government. I have zero reason to do so. Trust me, I am broke. Okay, I got this shirt yesterday. It's a pretty nice shirt. I like this shirt. But I am broke. Okay, I am a broke amateur stand-up comedian trying to make a name for myself. Okay, I am broke. I have no money. I have not been given $7,000 by anyone at any time. I have no money. Okay? I have no reason to cover for pedophiles. However, based on my own integrity, I think it is important to get things right, and I think it is important to add context to things where I think it is important to do so. I don't care if they are right wing, left wing, whatever. If you are a corrupt person in our government, you deserve to be held accountable. If you are a pedophile and you are found guilty, you deserve to burn at the stake. I don't care if you're Donald Trump. I don't care if you're Don Lemon. I don't give a fuck. If you break a law, you should be held accountable. And I will hold that principle until the day I die. Now, that being said, That being said, there are documents in the Epstein files that are accusing Donald Trump, amongst others, of doing very horrific things to children. They look like, I didn't put it on the screen. Again, I'm broke. And even though I have a great computer, it is older. And if you think back to the episode that I did, if you guys watched the episode I did on Skip Heitzig, my computer was about to fucking explode because I wanted to put a video inside the live stream, okay? Just being honest here. But the files that I'm talking about look like this. I'll try to get that where the glare's not on it, okay? You've all seen these kind of files, I'm sure. Now, as far as I can ascertain, these files were submitted where they came from, right? Where these files came from is something called the FBI NTOC. Now, the FBI NTOC is the National Threat Operations Center. Now, basically what this is, just going off of what it comes up on Google, is the central hub for the public to submit tips about federal crimes, operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week from Clarksburg, West Virginia, receiving thousands of phone calls and online submissions, e-tips, bad phrasing in context, daily, which are then analyzed and routed to the proper FBI field offices or partners for action on threats like terrorism, cybercrime, and violent crime. Anybody can submit these tips unchecked, unvalidated. They could just do whatever the fuck they want, okay? Now, I'm sure there are repercussions for submitting false tips and all that kind of thing, but that's what's important here. When I'm going through what I'm about to read, these are anonymous tips. Now, I've not been able to confirm some of these things, but from what I've understood is that some of these tips were made in November of 2020. Now, why is that important? Are there some people that maybe would be submitting tips to get Donald Trump not out of the election, if he would have won that election, to get him out of office? Maybe. All I'm saying is maybe, okay? So you have to remind yourself of that when I'm reading these documents. None of these have been corroborated. Now, we'll get into the broader issue of why there's no investigation in general. We'll get into that here in a little bit. I think it's important to touch on. But these are not corroborated statements. These are not corroborated facts. These are not facts. These are submitted tip lines that were included in the Epstein files. Are we crystal fucking clear on that? I think this is important to read, but you need to remind yourself of the broader context. Okay. I really can't be more clear about that. That's why I think it's important to state these things. Okie dokie. That being said, all right. Oh, I lost 3 people saying that. Well, if you're mad that I'm not sensationalizing these things, well, sorry. I'm not going to be a liar about these things. Sorry. Okay. I'll read a couple of these. Okay. Caller provided information to reference prior civil case from 13 years ago that involved Trump and mentioned Jeffrey Epstein with a minor. Okay. Complainant followed up. Now, a lot of these things are redacted, like on the sides of the email, right? Like I showed you guys. A lot of these things are redacted. Okay. Complainant following up after a call with an NYPD officer regarding her previous tip. reporting that she was forced to perform sex acts when she was 13 years old and pregnant in 1984. Complainant also reported that there were high-profile individuals involved in her sex trafficking and the murder and disposal of her newborn daughter. Complainant reported Donald Trump participating regularly in paying money to force her to perform sex acts with him, and alleged Trump was present when her uncle murdered her newborn child. Okay. Caller was taken by boat to Epstein Island. Caller said that it was complicated and involved Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Caller became a school counselor and had meetings with the school principal, Linda Kitts, and a police officer, where the caller was informed that there were pictures of herself with Epstein. Caller reported that the school was mad at her for not being a Trump person, and the school wanted her to testify and say things against Andrew Cuomo. The FBI and Donald Trump were on the phone during the meeting. Caller believes the FBI has baby pictures of her with Epstein. Now, there's a separate, so the statements that I just read are in a, again, so they're in this style, this format. So everything I'm reading is coming out of here, and then there's annotations here. Does that make sense? Okay. So in the annotations, it says, no contact made. Previous attempts indicated redacted had called in and said she had chemically induced amnesia and struggled with knowing what was a dream and reality. Okay. Caller reported that in 1987, a friend, victim 1, was out drinking and ended up at Trump Plaza. Victim 1 saw Donald Trump and wanted to meet him. An unknown man approached her and offered to introduce her to Trump. An unknown man gave Victim 1 a drink, and Victim 1 woke up naked and sore with $300 on the bed. Victim 1 didn't remember how she got into the room. She remembered seeing a flash of Trump's face, quote, a flash. Victim 1 called the caller and told her she thought she had been raped. Victim 1 did not go to the hospital to have a rape kit performed because she didn't think anyone would believe her, especially because she was drunk. Victim 1's husband's business had problems with suppliers, and Victim 1 believed Trump was behind it. Victim 1 also started dating a lawyer. Identifier is unknown, who was married. Victim 1 had a fight with her lawyer boyfriend and went to a bar. Victim 1 left a bar with a man who no one in the bar recognized but seemed to be familiar with Victim 1. Victim 1 was never seen again. A few years ago, remains were discovered that matched the description of what Victim 1 was wearing when she went missing. DNA tests at the time were inconclusive. And in the notes section, it says, no contact made, victim identified as deceased, and complainant did not have confirmed information. Let's see. In 2001 or 2004 or 2005, Sir Ivan Wilzig, don't know who that is. Let's look him up. Sir Ivan Wilzig. He is an American musician and songwriter. I'm sorry, but if there's anybody who's involved in this shit, it's definitely that guy. That motherfucker looks greasy as hell. Orange as fuck, too. Man, that boy tans. Okay. So this person hosted a party where Jeffrey Epstein, Sammy Sosa, and Donald Trump were in attendance. Patti LaBelle's PR agent stood at the door. Who is Patti LaBelle? Let's look up that person. Patti LaBelle. So Patti LaBelle is a singer and an actress who is currently on tour right now. She is known as the godmother of soul. Sorry, no idea who you are. Pedophile. Anyway, no, she's probably not. That's a joke. That's a joke. That's a joke. I don't think she's a pedophile. I don't think she's a pedophile. At the party, caller met an individual who's approximately 18 to 23 years of age who was brought from Oklahoma for a modeling job, but then sold to a man in France. Several women were being auctioned, and a woman possibly known as Colette LNU was the madam. Who is that? Colette LNU? Who the fuck is this person? Colette LNU. Who the fuck is this person? Am I fucking spelling it right? Yeah, I'm spelling it right. Who the fuck is this person? Sorry, I kind of just want to look into this really quick. Who the fuck is this person? Okay, that's the file I'm already looking at. So I just found an email that it's at the beginning of all of this InTalk file stuff. So it's the senders and receivers are redacted, but the attachment says redacted InTalk Alexander Brothers, and it says attached. Let me know if you need anything else. And below it says, are you able to send me the full? Send me blank full InTalk report. We need to interview regarding the Alexander Brothers allegations. And this is from it's from a special agent of the Child Exploitation and Human Trafficking Task Force. So it looks like an investigation was started at some point. So I'll just start reading from this. This is at the beginning of it. So, okay. So it goes in the like categories, it goes name, complaint summary, response, criminal history. Now the criminal history stuff is all redacted. So blank reported an unidentified female. I'll finish where I was reading. So Colette LNU was a madam. A couple of years later, caller saw Colette at the Cheetah Club in New York. She said she was one of Santos's friends that Jamie Foxx was interested in spending a night with her and that he could pay her a lot of money. Man, if Jamie Foxx is a fucking pedophile, come on, man. But the response is phone number provided was bad, could not identify a valid number. So, okay, so starting from the beginning of this InTalk stuff, I'll just go through it and find some interesting things. Stuff in here about, okay. So redacted reported an unidentified female friend who was forced to perform oral sex on Trump approximately 35 years ago in New Jersey. The friend told Alexa that she was approximately 13 to 14 years old when it occurred, and the friend allegedly bit Donald Trump while performing oral sex, so bit him on the dick. The friend was allegedly hit in the face when she laughed about biting Donald Trump, and the friend was abused by Epstein. Redacted reported she was a friend. Redacted who was a personal assistant to Epstein in Florida in 86 until 1991 or 92. This friend shared names of some of the guests at Epstein's parties to include Clinton and Trump. At age 16, while modeling, caller attended 8 parties at Epstein's New York residence. On one occasion, the caller reported she was sexually assaulted by Epstein. On another occasion, 2 twin brothers, Alan and Orrin, lured caller and her friend upstairs, but they escaped back downstairs. Caller stated Orrin raped her best friend, and a third brother, Tal, raped a 14-year-old girl named Redacted. Caller named other individuals involved in, quote, big orgy parties with her, other young girls, and older Victoria's Secret models, including Clinton and Trump. Online complaint reported she was a victim and witnessed sex trafficking ring at the Trump golf course in Rancho Palos Verdes, California, between 95 and 96. Complaint reported that Ghislaine Maxwell as the madam and brokered sex parties, clients of whom included Epstein, Robert Leach, and Trump. Complainant reported participating in orgies, and some girls went missing, rumored to have been murdered or buried at the facility. And there's a bunch of crazy shit in here like this. Like one that's getting a lot of attention is this one. Donald Trump, the president, had parties at Mar-a-Lago called, quote, calendar girls. Jeffrey Epstein would bring the children in, and Trump would auction them off. He measured the children's vulva and vaginas by entering a finger and rated the children on tightness. The guests were elder men and included Elon Musk, Donald Trump Jr., Ivanka Trump, and Eric Trump were there. Attorney Alan Dershowitz, Alan Dershowitz was also there with attorney Bob Shapiro. We were taken in rooms, forced to give oral sex to Donald J. Trump, forced to allow them to penetrate us. I was 13 years old when Trump raped me. Ghislaine Maxwell was president. So there's a lot of stuff in here like that. Now, some of this stuff, you know, I mean, if, I don't know, man, like, I'll be perfectly honest, like, okay, so here's another email on the bottom here. It says, note, some of these individuals are reporting secondhand information. Names are redacted. And then the reply is, this is the list I sent Whitney with the names of Trump accusers from the NTOC. I'm assuming these are FBI agents emailing each other. Look, I'll be perfectly honest with you guys. I hope none of this is true. Not to save anybody, but just that means that less people were abused. But if half of this shit is true, it lines up with what is being asserted in the rest of the files by Epstein. Or about Epstein, rather. Now, there is a thing in here about Pizzagate that I want to bring up. Let me find it really quick. So, if y'all remember what Pizzagate was, basically what it was is a quote-unquote conspiracy theory where basically what it was is during the WikiLeaks dump, there were a lot of emails that came out from John Podesta where basically like they were clearly using code words like pizza and hot dogs and talking about like $40,000 worth of this kind of food going to the White House and how it was all happening out of the basement of this pizza shop. And then once all this is starting to gain traction, this guy, miraculously, this guy decides to run into the pizza shop with an AR-15, shoots up the place, doesn't hit anybody, but magically a bullet hits, and they covered this very well in the episode between Tucker and Ian Carroll, but one of the bullets manages to hit the hard drive that has all of the stuff on it, and then it comes out, and the shooter gives a quote where he's like, I expected it all to be there, but there's no evidence of it being there. I couldn't find anything, yada, yada, yada. And then flash forward to last year when the Epstein files started coming out. A month prior to that, this guy is pulled over by police officers and killed. What do you do with that? But there's some interesting emails in here. One of them is from redacted to Jeffrey Epstein. Attachments, Veru Equity Research Brookline PDF. This is better than a Chinese cookie. See attached. Let's go for pizza and grape soda. Again, no one else can understand. Then in another email, it says, from Harry Fish to Jeffrey Epstein. Holy shit. Chunky, exclamation points. I forgot about that. What time do you want to get pizza and grape soda tomorrow? Then there's another email from Epstein's and his urologist, I believe. Excuse me. Hey, let me find it. Is this the right one? No, this is from a redacted and Harry Fish. And it's assumed that this might be Jeffrey Epstein. I think Harry Fish was the urologist. Yeah, Harry Fish is the urologist. Right. And so this is a text message chain. Epstein to Fish. Epstein says, I'm back. Can I call you in? Can you call in Sendra 100 at Zittimer? How many? 10. Did they get your call yet? You have refills. Get them. Call them back. Thanks. They want you to call. I just did. You can pick them up now. After you use them, wash your hands and let's go get pizza and grape soda. So this is the urologist Harry Fish contacting Epstein, telling him to pick up some ED medication and then go get pizza and grape soda. So basically, look, the conspiracy theorists were fucking right. I'm sorry. They were fucking right. If it feels like I'm trying to go through this quick, it's because I am. I want to end this pretty soon. I don't want to make this too long of an episode. Let's see. Yeah, he names Epstein in here. Okay. Okay, so this is a really weird chain. So these are more text messages between Epstein and Harry Fish, starting with Epstein. Hey, can you bring Howard Stern to dinner? Harry Fish, I don't know him well enough. Okay. Harry Fish, lunch today? Epstein, can't. And then Epstein says, do you want a Woody dinner tonight? Woody Allen. Harry Fish, cannot. Investor conference and meetings today. I'm with Mitch all day. Can he come to dinner? He's very interesting. He was a prostate cancer surgeon. Epstein, the best. Thanks for a great dinner. The fish heads was what I needed. Chicken parm would have been good too. You are back on my show. Oh, one more thing. Chunkies. Why is that showing up twice? He texts him again. Cherry Pop-Tart from Greenberg, and it looks like a microwave cherry Pop-Tart. It's a picture of it. Epstein replies on a different day. Sultan wants to replace bionic dick with a new Swiss version. Wants different surgeon. Harry Fish. You're joking, I hope. Nope. Goyim. And then Harry Fish says, pizza and grape soda tomorrow for lunch. We can also buy Teflon for Woody. What the fuck is Teflon? What the fuck? So Teflon are two black leather boxes containing Torah scrolls worn by Jewish men during weekday morning prayers to fulfill a biblical commandment. They consist of an arm piece and a headpiece, symbolizing the dedication to one's action, thoughts, and emotions to God. They are worn to foster spiritual focus, mindfulness, and connection with God. Why do you need those when you're eating pizza and grape soda? Fucking Jews. What the shit? All right. It's very strange. That's all I'm saying. Let me see if there's any other Epstein stuff that I wanted to read that I had saved for myself. Give me a second. No. Then obviously there's like the crazy shit about Bill and Melinda Gates, or well, really Bill Gates, but you know, that's been reported on enough. I don't really need to touch on that. Yeah. I just think like, let's focus on my closing point here that I really want to get on here, which is what now? I think let's finish off with that. The what now of it all. And truthfully, I don't know. like I said earlier in the show, this is really turning into a boiling point for the American populace. I think it's obvious enough to say that. This is turning into a boiling point, and where we go from here, it's anybody's guess. My whole thing about this is, okay, we have all of these documents that are containing incredibly disgusting things. Oh, I'll get into the fake stuff. So just really quickly, there's a lot of fake things going around on the internet. And that's the trouble with it too, is the DOJ is not doing any, this all coincides. The DOJ is not doing anything outright to be transparent. They're just fucking not. They're fucking useless, wasteless pieces of garbage that need to get fired. All of them. Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino's gone, thank God he stepped down. But like, these people need to go. And so, like, there were images flying around that were redacted, you know, of like the frozen chicken and like a baby's leg coming next to it. That's been proved to be fake. The images that came out where it was like an older version of Epstein walking around Tel Aviv from like a week and a half ago, that's been proven to be fake. There's emails flying around about World War III starting the day of the Super Bowl, which is tomorrow. That's proven to be fake. So really, like, when you find these things online, you need to see if they're in the Epstein files. And while you cannot, it looks like, see them very accessibly, just search in the search bar. In the link that I put in the live chat here. Search for yourself. Figure out if these things are really real. Okay, that's all I'll say about that. But you would think that now that we have all of these files, and we have incredibly, how do I put this, damning statements about extremely powerful people. If the DOJ, if the FBI, if the CIA needs to be fucking pressured too. They need the same kind of legislation that was put on the DOJ needs to be put on the CIA, where it's like, hey, what the fuck do you guys have? Because the missing pieces to this, obviously, are all the documents we know were destroyed by Epstein's estate, because they were given a heads up during the Ghislaine Maxwell arrest and trial that happened. But so that's a missing piece. And then the missing piece is, what does the CIA have? And then what does Mossad have? Now, we're never going to get what Mossad has, obviously. They're never going to fucking cooperate, because even though there are fucking welfare, baby, Israel does not work in the best interest of America. We work in the best interest of fucking Israel for God knows what reason. But maybe the Epstein is the reason, right? All of this blackmail and all this dirty shit that they have on our politicians. But if the FBI and the DOJ at large had any real intention of being transparent with the American people, they would say, okay, here's all the files. We've redacted the names of the victims and all that stuff. They've redacted way too much, clearly, but we've redacted the names of the victims. Here are because the Epstein files are just the beginning, right? I'm knocking over my toys. My precious collectibles. There we go. Okay. The Epstein files are just the beginning. What they need and what the American people deserve is an investigative team that needs to come together of God knows who that's not already corrupted by this shit to drag, like, if I could wave a magic wand, what I would have happen is Trump, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Melinda Gates, Peter Attia, all of these people that are getting named, Alan Dershowitz, what's his name? Forgetting his name, but anyone who's named significantly in these Epstein files, including Ghislaine Maxwell, even though she's in prison, the mother of Victoria Martin, so you can figure out who the fuck is the fourth John Doe person. Grab these people by their collars, drag them in front of a congressional committee, put them in the hot seat under the threat of perjury, and you say, hey, motherfucker, we have all of these questions. Answer them. Nobody is leaving this room. We'll even order pizza. Since you motherfuckers love pizza so much, we're going to order pizza. There's going to be porta-shitters outside right here. And nobody is leaving this room until we get to the bottom of this. You can sleep. We can all sleep in here. It's going to get real stinky. We can all sleep in here. There are armed guards so that nobody leaves, and we're getting to the bottom of this right now because this can no longer be allowed to continue. That's what I would have happen. Obviously, it's not realistic, so what do you do at this point? What do you do? And I truly don't, I mean... How can this be allowed to continue? And as these things go on, and hopefully more files come out and people dig into them, and more of these ugly things get surfaced, this is a question that was posed by Tucker Carlson in his episode last night. I think it's an important one to ask. As all of these things continue, how can our systems of government be allowed to continue? Laws, taxation, even just the social contract of good faith and good order. How can these things be allowed to continue? I don't know. But here's the thing, and this is the issue that we get into with the current state of the country. Life right now, and I truly mean this, I'm not pandering, I'm not trying to take an easy out, I truly believe this. We live in the best time of human history. Life has never been easier. Life has never been more accessible. I mean, listen, forget the computers. This thing right here has the access to so much information and entertainment and all of, everything in between. This is a magic box right here that we're all addicted to, and it's actually ruining our lives, but it is a magic box. I'm sitting in a not air conditioned because I have a swamp cooler and the swamp cooler's off so the heater's on, but a climate controlled room. I am broadcasting to the world. Anybody can listen to this. Not a lot of people are. Thank you to the people that are listening, but I'm broadcasting to the world. Anybody can listen to this right now. Anybody can watch my catalog of episodes. I'm about to hop in my car and go throughout my day and blah, 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 blah. You see the things that I'm saying, right? You see my point. We live in a truly incredible time in human history. But underneath the surface, we have truly diabolical and horrible things happening that are being perpetuated by horrible people. And a lot of them, and it's not even happening in inserts of our country. With all of these intelligence ties to Israel, it's happening to benefit their country and their country's goals. Not that it would be okay to benefit our country, but it's not even benefiting our country. You see the point that I'm making? So what do you do now, right? How do you continue? And I genuinely don't know, because you have people. So I'm 28. I'm turning 29 this year. I was I just turned 4 because my birthday's in June. I just turned 4 a couple months before 9/11. But there are people older than me that are in their mid-30s and their 40s that are going to be assuming the leadership, or should be entering into power. They're the ones that are becoming the new congressmen and women, the people that are going to be running for president, so on and so forth, the high-end political commentators, these people who remember a country before 9/11, before the Clinton administration, and everything that we know about the Epstein files right now and the Epstein scandal is that all of this really started around the Bill Clinton administration. So we have people alive right now that remember, that have fond memories of America before all of this nonsense started happening. And of course, you had scandals beforehand, but you see my point, right? And then we have children growing up today, 10, 14, 18 years old, we're in 2026, man. Like, let's just be frank about this. There is somebody turning 18 today, right? So let's do the math on this. They were born in 2008. They were born during the housing market crash. That's insane, right? Like my like barometer for how old somebody is how old were you when Spider-Man came out? The very first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man in like 2002. And there's people where that movie is older than them. You know what I mean? So you have children growing up in a world where like they're in their most formative years and they're being introduced to this being, hey, this is what this has been. My generation or older grew up with like, oh, this was only like reserved for like the kooks and the crazies and the conspiracy theorists and the whatever. And so like, you see the point that I'm trying to make? And now we get to a point now where it's like, what generation? Because the scary thing is you don't want to fall into apathy. You don't want to fall into like, oh, well, pedophiles run the government. Now, what are we going to do? Oh, well, I guess this is what we have to accept. My question, I guess, would be like, not only just how can we allow our systems to continue, but it's just what system, what's your barometer, what's your rubric, what's your grading system? How good can a system be? Because none of our systems are even working properly. Now, that's a whole other conversation. I'm not going to get into that. But like our systems are not working properly. Look at how America's functioning right now, right? But even if they were working properly, what system is allowed to work or should be allowed to work with the understanding that underneath it, there are Jewish pedophiles, Jewish elites running the government, compromising our politicians for the benefit of Israel? Like, I'm done parsing words. I've been done, but I'm really done parsing words on this one, guys. I'm done. Like, on my Instagram, I will do my best to crack jokes. Again, on my Instagram, it's comedian, and it's the short form, and so I don't want to get into the facts of everything. It's just what's funny. Let's find the funny, because at the end of the day, that's truly what I love about being a comedian. One of the things is making light of very ugly and horrible things where you can make light about it, right? Where you can, and that window is growing smaller and smaller by the hour, it seems, and it's truly ugly. But in the long form, I'm done parsing words, and I'm done not calling it what it is. I don't hate Jewish people. I'm not an anti-Semitic person. I genuinely have no bigotry or hatred in my heart towards anyone for any reason. I don't hate anybody. I gotta be honest. There's even like my own, like for people that know me personally, I don't hate my own father, despite everything that's happened. I certainly don't hate my mother. I just kind of feel bad for her, to be honest with you. But I don't even feel bad for my dad, but I just don't hate him. I don't hate anybody. I'm not an anti-Semite. I'm not an anti-Jewish person. But like, call this shit what it is. Elite Jewish pedophiles that are influencing and corrupting and blackmailing our government. And so what system then is good enough to where you allow that system to continue while at the same time, right? At the same time, you allow it to run, but then you also go under the exception that under the understanding and accepting, as in like you're accepting this thing, not exception, but accepting this thing, that these are the ugly things that have to happen. I can't accept that. I'm sorry. I can't accept that those things can run parallel. If you're a fucking pedophile, I don't care if you're a Jewish pedophile, a Christian pedophile, a Catholic pedophile, a Muslim pedophile, a black, a gay, Asian, whatever. If you're a pedophile, you deserve to burn at the stake. If you're abusing children, you deserve to die. I think there are actions that you take in this life where it's like, if you find out that you've been doing these things, you die. You die. Sorry. There are things that are forgivable. There is actually a lot of forgiveness in this world. I have a lot of forgiveness in my heart. Now, does forgiveness mean that if I meet somebody and we're friends and this thing happens or whatever, we can break bread and shake hands? No, not necessarily, but I can forgive. That's the Christian in me. That's my religion, right? That's Jesus speaking. Forgiveness. Forgive your enemies. Turn the other cheek. Pedophilia? Go to God, man. Go to God for forgiveness. Maybe that's something I got to work on in myself. I know that runs not, I know that does not run, with Christianity. Maybe that's something I got to get over myself. I don't know. But find God for that kind of forgiveness, man, because you're not going to find it from me, and I know you're not going to find it from most people. There's a reason why even in prisons, they have to separate the child abusers from the general population because they know they're going to get murdered or at least brutalized. It's a no quarter for that kind of thing, So then again, back to my broader point, it's just like, what has to happen at this point? Like, what has to happen so that these things can be rectified in the sense of people, because the actions can never be undone, the injustices can never be undone, the victims can never be untraumatized. But what has to happen so then this cannot be allowed to happen, or at least understood that it's happened, certainly at the scale that it has been? Or is it too big? Is that something? I'm not trying to say like I'm accepting defeat, because I'm not, but like, is it too big? You know what I mean? Like, is it so big, right? Because then if you're asking the question, for these systems to run, you have to let these things happen. So then the inverse of that then would be for these things to be rectified and for justice to be served, do the systems all have to, does modern Western society have to collapse? And then what does that really look like? And I think that's a topic for another day. I genuinely don't know. And I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. I don't know. And it's scary to think about, it is frightening to think about. And I've done a lot of thinking about this kind of thing and a lot of prayer on this kind of thing. And I just don't know where it goes. I really don't. It's just really concerning, because I love my country. I still love America. I want to make that very clear. I love the United States of America. I love the idea of what America is supposed to be. I love what America can provide. And, because if I was in other countries, dozens can pop into your head. I cannot do what I'm doing right now. I find myself very fortunate that I've been able to find what my passion is at a relatively young age. And I want to, pursue it and work at it and get better at it to the best that I possibly can. Redline it as much as I can. You know what I mean? I love stand-up comedy. I love podcasting. It's very fun. I thoroughly enjoy it. I would never be able to do these things in the way, because this is how it's supposed to be done, with the absolutism of free speech. You can't do this in every country, but America is one. You can't even do it in all Western countries. You've got comedians getting locked up in the UK. Pretty sure a scandal happened in Canada. You can't do what I'm doing and what so many others are allowed to do, have the privilege to do. Well, quite frankly, I have the right to do as a free person in other countries. So how do you preserve that while then bringing justice to these ugly, ugly things that are happening? I don't know. And that's the ugly thing, man. I really don't know. Whew. All right, fun show. Again, I think I'm going to stop it here. We might do a follow-up episode next week just so I can get more thoughts out. I just want to keep these to about an hour and a half. I know we're inching up at an hour and a half. So thank you, everyone, for watching. Please go into the live chat and get yourself some tickets if you are in the Albuquerque or surrounding area for the show here in a couple of weeks. like and subscribe to the podcast. It really does help a lot. Follow me on Instagram, Noah Vargas 2. The Instagram is exploding. It's exploding. Let's see where we're at right now. I mean, my views are just going absolutely fucking bananas, if I do say so myself. Yeah, I just gained 19 followers since I checked it last. I got a couple reels in the millions, 4.2 million. I got a reel at almost 10 million views, 9.3 million, 2.9 million. Got a couples in the tens of thousands. It's very nice. Very thankful for all the engagement. Thank you all for liking the content. Please subscribe on YouTube. Follow me on Instagram. This is on Spotify as well. This episode will be on Spotify soon. Thank you, everyone, for the support. Get your tickets. Support where you can. Myself and AJ will be out in Austin, Texas, announcing those dates here soon. I'll be in San Diego soon, announcing that pretty soon. Very excited to go to San Diego. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching, and we will see you guys again. Oh, one last thing. Sorry. Episode out Monday with the mayor of Rio Rancho. That's going to be a great one for everyone here in New Mexico. That's it. Thank you, everyone, very much. Love you to death. We'll see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.